Take you back there live. In the meantime, the National Guard is mobilizing in Florida and other states to help the victims of Michael. The Florida Panhandle took a direct hit from the storm, the most powerful hurricane ever to make landfall there. Rick Scott's briefing just ahead, but joining us right now, Lieutenant General Daniel Hokanson, the Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau. You've got about 1,200 National Guard members ready to go in Florida and more in Georgia and the Carolinas, right?
Yes, sir. Actually, we're up to about 3,000 now in the state of Florida.
Wow. And they're already on the job. What are the? I'm sorry, General. I hate to do this to you. Rick Scott, the governor of Florida, is just stepping to the microphone. We're going to listen in to Governor Scott's briefing.
Good morning. I just received a briefing on Hurricane Michael from Emergency Management right here in Tallahassee. This morning, Florida's Gulf Coast, Panhandle, and Big Bend are waking up to unimaginable destruction. So many lives have been changed forever. So many families have lost everything. Homes are gone, businesses are gone. Roads and infrastructure along the storm's path have been destroyed. This hurricane was an absolute monster, and the damage left in its wake is still yet to be fully understood. Today, the top focus is search and rescue. We prayed that Floridians stayed safe. Last night, the National Guard, Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, and Florida Highway Patrol drove into darkness and unknown light last night to begin rescues, and there are a lot of other people that went with them. Highway Patrol, DOT, utilities, healthcare workers. I mean, it's the bravery of people doing this is unimaginable. Pray for each of these individuals. Our law enforcement and first responders are heroes and are leaving their families to help others. We cannot thank them enough. This morning, I will be joining the Florida National Guard to survey damage in Panama City and Mexico Beach. The Florida Department of Transportation is leading a massive effort this morning with dozens of crews to clear debris along critical roadways so first responders, National Guard, medical personnel, food, water and supplies, and utility workers can get to where they are needed. Do not get out on the roads today. Do not travel home today. Roads are not open, and you will not be able to get home if you live in or near the coast. I know this has to be very, very frustrating. I know you just want to go home, you want to check on things, and begin the recovery process. We're working as quickly as possible to make that happen. But first, we need your help, your patience, and your understanding that before you return, we have to make sure things are safe, and law enforcement and rescue workers are able to save lives. This also applies to families that sheltered in place. If it is not safe to leave your house, don't leave it. Don't take a chance. Listen to local officials. Do not go out and explore the damage. Let the professionals do that. You will only put your own life and the lives of others at risk if you venture out onto unsafe roads. Again, if you and your family made it through the storm safely, which I prayed that you did, the worst thing you can do now is to act foolishly and put yourself and your family in danger or keep law enforcement and rescue workers from saving somebody's life. I cannot stress this enough. We also need people to be very safe if you're using a generator. Do not put a running generator in your home. Look at the instructions. Follow the instructions to a T. Be safe. Following the landfall, I requested that President Donald Trump issue a major disaster declaration to allow federal resources to flow quickly into the impacted communities. I spoke with the President before landfall yesterday and again just a few minutes ago, and he is committed to make every federal resource available to help the recovery. I was also briefed by the U.S. Coast Guard yesterday. They were pre-positioned in Tampa and Mobile with critical assets and resources during the storm and will be deploying for a response. The Coast Guard last night ran 10 rescue missions through the night, and they have already saved lives. I spoke with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristen Nielsen this morning. I also spoke with Brock Long this morning and met with FEMA's Southeast Regional Coordinator, Gracia Check. Homeland Security and FEMA have committed to providing everything we need, and we remain in constant contact with FEMA and all our federal partners who are mobilizing this morning. As I said last night, We are deploying a massive wave of response, and those efforts are already underway. Help is coming by air, land, and sea. We have 35.
That's Florida's Governor Rick Scott telling people, please do not go back to your homes if you evacuated during Hurricane Michael. It is not safe. Let's get back to our discussion with Lieutenant General Daniel Hokanson. He's Vice Chief of the National Guard Bureau. You were telling me you have about 3,000 National Guard forces on duty in the affected area. What is job one for them, sir?
Well, sir, basically, was U.S. Northern Command as the synchronizer, working very closely with them in support of the lead federal agency to make sure that we're there to respond any needs that our citizens have in the impacted area. And as the governor mentioned, one of the highlights last night was out of Panama City. They had lost communications with parts of Mexico Beach. And so about early this morning, about 1 o'clock, we had 2 of our teams in their tactical vehicles link up with local law enforcement and drive into the Mexico Beach area. Unfortunately, due to the conditions, they had to actually exit their vehicles and walk the last mile, but they were able to link up with local law enforcement and the fire department in Mexico Beach, as well as about 15 to 20 citizens who had sheltered overnight. The good news story is none of them were injured, and there was no one missing at the time when they were there. So, as the governor mentioned, the response effort started very early this morning once the hurricane was clear of the area.
Typically, the Coast Guard takes the lead on search and rescue in situations like this. Do you have Guard troops who are doing that job as well?
Absolutely, sir. We have aviation units throughout the state, also within Georgia and also the accompanying states. And U.S. Northern Command also coordinates a lot of the active duty assets to make sure that they're ready and available whenever they're needed. But
finally, you know, these Guards members, they have families and homes in the affected area as well, don't they? How do they walk away from that to help others?
Well, sir, it really goes back to our motto of always ready, always there. And when you look at the Gulf states, they're always ready because they train for this. And when we talk about always there, because they're in the communities every single day, they're usually the first responders in coordination with the local first responders. And because their units are there, they're familiar with the area, and they really kind of keep an eye out for each other. And, you know, our hat goes off not only to their families, but also their employers that allow them to do this when they're needed to just walk away and help out their fellow citizens.
They are doing a great job, and they've got a huge job ahead. Lieutenant General Daniel Hokanson with the National Guard. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John.
Lawmakers on both